Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Gold, joining you on Friday. We're at the end of another working week. Anyway, not quite the weekend yet. And we are the day after Arsenal made it 2 wins from 2 in the Europa League with their 3-0 win against Bodo last night. Enjoyable night at the Emirates. Apologies, I didn't get to do my video around the game. Just had a little bit of stuff going on. It just made it impossible to find time really. So apologies for that. But I wanted to talk in today's video about the match. A couple of bits. I wanted to talk about Fabio Vieira, who I thought was great again last night. A little bit about Gabriel Jesus. I'll do my player ratings as well. If you're interested in them, I know I normally do them after the game, but I thought I'm doing today as well, just to go through it. I thought there's some good performances, and then look a little bit ahead at the end to the Liverpool game. Look at some of the latest team news and some of the decisions facing Mikel Arteta, who was a very happy man after the win last night, but he certainly in his press conference hinted that he felt his side could have done a little bit better. Maybe they could, but still it was a very comfortable night's work for them in the end. Goals from Nketiah, Holding, Vieira, making it 3-0. They're top of Group A now, despite having played a game less than Bodo and Zurich, who are bottom of the table. Bodo and PSV both on 4, Arsenal on 6. If Arsenal can go to Norway and win next week, then they'll be in a very, very good position after 3 games in the group. I imagine next week's going to be a lot tougher than it was last night, playing over north of the Arctic Circle. Not going to be the easiest of away games for Arsenal next weekend. But in terms of yesterday, I thought they played well. I mean, they barely got out second gear. Mikel, as expected, made a lot of changes, made 8. The only one that I wasn't expecting, I thought Martinelli would probably be given a rest and Nelson would get the start, but he went again with Martinelli. Bit surprising, I have to admit, considering Nelson's been training for a while. I thought he would be deemed fit enough to start, and I thought it looked quite bright actually when he came on in the second half, Reece Nelson, and just felt like an opportunity to give Martinelli a bit of a breather, but didn't do it. He also started Gabriel and Granit Xhaka, which I was expecting. Other than that, it was all a big host of changes from the team that played against Tottenham. I thought there were some good performances. I thought Rob Holding played well, scored a goal as well, which was good for him. I thought Fabio Vieira, again, looks really, really lively. Every time you see, he just catches your eye, doesn't he? Every time he plays Fabio Vieira. Not hugely involved in the game, but he just pops up in really dangerous areas. You can see why he got so many good numbers last season for Porto, because he just finds himself in good, dangerous areas around the penalty area, loves the shot, very good vision as well. And his pass for Holding's goal, his cross was absolutely fantastic for Holding's goal. And he could have got more than just the goal he got right at the end last night as well. He had a few good opportunities. He just tends to be in the right positions to be a danger, to be a threat. And I really like him, what I'm seeing from Vieira at the moment. Mikel was asked about him afterwards and said, you saw his quality every time he's around the box. He's a real threat, really intelligent player and brave. In defending, he still needs to do more and understand it more, because organisation is key when you play against good teams in ball possession. So Mikel, as usual, bit of praise, but then also telling someone you can still do more. I think it's going to take Fabio Vieira a while to probably adjust to exactly what Mikel Arteta wants defensively from him. But going forward, like I said, I just thought he stood out every time he got in on and around the ball last night. He stood out and he caused Bodo plenty of problems with his movement and his quality in and around the box. But I think the one criticism was he probably should have had a couple more goals. He had a couple of decent opportunities in the first half, especially that he didn't take advantage of. But he looks a real talent. I mean, £30 million. We didn't know too much about him, did we, when he signed? But everyone he spoke to in Portugal, they were always saying, look, this guy is pretty special. You look at his numbers, look what he did for Porto, especially in the second half of last season. And from what we've seen from him so far at Arsenal, you can see why. I mean, he's already scored twice, home and away. He's already got an assist. Just make something happen. So yeah, I thought he put in a really good performance last night. I thought Tomiyasu played well as well, which was good. I thought Tierney played well. Tierney's looking strong and looking fit. Really unlucky with that shot that hit the post. Eddie just looks a different player, I think. I thought obviously he finished last season really well, but I think this season what we're seeing from Eddie, he just looks a much more well-rounded player. He looks really strong. He leads the line really well. He's definitely bulked up, and he was big towards the end of last season, but he just definitely looks bulkier, and his ability with his back to goal now is just so much better than it used to be, and he can spin. He just looks really ready to make a big impact, Eddie Nketiah. And you look at his numbers recently, I think he's got 12 goals in his last 20 starts, and he's scored in both starts he's had this season. The unfortunate thing for him is obviously he got Gabriel Jesus ahead of him in the Premier League, which is really, really difficult because Jesus is playing so well. He's had such a big impact at Arsenal. It's like, where do you find the time to start Eddie Nketiah in the Premier League? So it's difficult for Mikel when he has to balance it. I mean, he said a lot of good things about Eddie in the press conference last night after the game, and he admitted that he deserves to start almost, and his record is making it really, really difficult not to start him in the Premier League. Eddie spoke as well after the game and obviously admitted that he was a bit frustrated his lack of game time, but he can only keep doing what he's doing. And I thought he was really bright yesterday. He took his goal away, made it look really easy. Classic Nketiah, that, isn't it? He just made it look so much easier than it was, because it was not the easiest finish. I know I'd have ballooned it left-footed into the clock end, but he took it really, really well. So fair play to him for that. Gabriel Jesus, how good was that? Jesus for Vieira's goal at the end when he came on. He just does not stop running, does not stop working. Even in a game like that, you come on 2-0 up, last few minutes, and he comes on, he just puts in that sort of cameo. He's just such a talented player, and he works so hard. And I thought there was some interesting comments from Arteta. He was asked about Jesus' work rate, and he said, "I love his mentality. It doesn't matter how long he plays, when he plays, in which position, he always gives you absolutely everything. You see his pressing when he goes on the pitch. It makes the team different. His energy as well. Obviously, today he made an outstanding action to create the third goal." And he was then asked, does his attitude kind of rub off on the rest of the team? And he says, well, especially if he does it, he has won everything in the last 5 years. So imagine what the rest have to do. So follow him, because he's always in the right spot. I love that comment, follow him. And that's what he's trying to drill into his players. He's like sort of using Jesus as the barometer. It's like, look, this is the guy who for the last 5 years has been at Manchester City and won it all, apart from Champions League, but won pretty much everything there is to offer. And yet he's still coming on for 20 minutes in Europa League and working as hard as that. That's the example that everyone has to follow, and that's what Mikel's saying there. He's putting Jesus up as the character for everyone to follow. And it's a brilliant bit of play for him for that goal last night. Put it on a plate for Vieira. Although it was a good finish from Vieira because he had to lift it high. He did it well. But yeah, just fantastic from Jesus. So I thought it was interesting having the two of them play together, because we saw it in pre-season quite a bit. I thought it worked really, really well. And again, yesterday, he left Nketiah until the last few minutes when he took him off. But initially, when Jesus came on, he had Nketiah as a central striker and he had Jesus playing on the left. And that is an option. If you do want to play them both in the Premier League, if you want to give Nketiah a start but still play Jesus, you can do that and still be a bit of a threat. That could also allow Gabriel Martinelli to have a rest. So it's definitely an option that Mikel's got available to him. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it at some point. Maybe not now, straight away in the Premier League, but as the season progresses. And Mikel looks to give Eddie a few more opportunities, because I'm sure that he will, because he'll know that he needs to start a few games in the Premier League. He can't just keep coming on for the odd 5 or 10 minutes and keep him happy that way. Okay, so player ratings wise for last night's game, again, obviously I didn't get to do my video afterwards. No one played badly. I thought Turner. I initially gave Turner a 6 in my ratings that went up on goal afterwards, but I changed. I'm going to give him a 7 for that. He does look suspect when the ball's at his feet. There's no doubt about it. He's no Aaron Ramsdale when it comes to distribution. But he made a couple of good stops yesterday. He had nothing to do in the first half, literally nothing. And I thought that made a couple of the saves he made in the second half more impressive, especially the one early on, which was a really sharp save to keep out. I can't remember, it was Berg, I think, who had the shot. And considering he had nothing to do, he could have easily kind of been resting on his laurels a little bit and just not been switched on. But he did really well to make that save, and he made another one later on as well. So I'm going to give Turner a 7, even though I only gave him a 6 on goal last night. Tomiyasu, like I said, I thought played really well. I'm going to give Tomiyasu an 8. I thought he looked really good, and he played a couple of positions across the defence as the game wore on yesterday. And it was good to see him back looking fit and playing well. So I gave him an 8. I gave Holding an 8 just because probably was only about 7, but he scored a goal and it was a really good header as well. So I knocked him up to an 8 as well. Gabriel, I gave a 7. I mean, he just cruised through the whole game, really. Tierney, I gave a 7. Maybe Tierney could have had an 8 because I thought he played pretty well, and that was a great shot that led to the Nketiah's goal. But I gave Tierney a 7. Sambi, I gave a 7. Vieira, I gave an 8. Xhaka, I gave a 7. Martinelli, I gave a 6. Marquinhos, I gave a 6. Thought Marquinhos struggled a little bit. He worked hard, and you could tell he was almost trying a little bit too hard to make something happen. He knew it was a big opportunity for him as his first home start, but it just didn't quite work out for him. Yes, everything was trying, it just never quite came off. There was a header early on in the second half. I think it was when Granit had his shot saved and it came back to Marquinhos, and he kind of miscued the header almost, and I thought that summed up his night a little bit. His timing was just a little bit off. But that's not to say he played badly. It just, some things he tried just didn't work out. So I gave Marquinhos and Martinelli a 6, and I gave Nketiah an 8. I thought Eddie played really well. I think man of the match I'd probably give to Vieira, but it was again, you could have given it to Nketiah, you could have given it to Tomiyasu. So a few decent performances. So Turner 7, Tomiyasu 8, Holding 8, Gabriel 7, Tierney 7, Sambi 7, Vieira 8, Xhaka 7, Martinelli 6, Nketiah 8, Marquinhos 6. Obviously, a load of subs came on, 5 of them, in fact, and Jesus did what he had to do, but I'm not really getting. I'm just giving my player ratings to the players who started that game. Okay, so Premier League returns this weekend. Moved on from the Europa League now, looking at Premier League, and a huge game for Arsenal on Sunday. And this is such an important one. It's such an interesting one as well. You know, Tottenham was great. The performance was great, but for me, as much, you know, it was a brilliant win, great win, but it wasn't really a statement win because Arsenal always beat Tottenham at home. It's just, you know, Arsenal win at home in a derby, they lose away in a derby. It's just how it's gone the last sort of 5 or 6 years. So as good as it was, I don't necessarily think that win means that Arsenal are serious title contenders or contenders to finish second. I think if they go and replicate that sort of performance against Liverpool, and more importantly replicate that sort of result against Liverpool, then that is far more of a statement win, and that is far more of an indicator that they could well be ready to maybe not challenge Man City, because Man City just looks so ridiculously good, but certainly be their closest contenders. So I think this is a far more interesting game than the Tottenham game in terms of the whole season and the outlook for the season. And if Arsenal can, because Liverpool always beat Arsenal, always, home and away, doesn't matter what sort of form they're in. You know, I think it's 6 of the last 7 games in the Premier League they've won. They knocked Arsenal out of the League Cup last season, 2-0 win at the Emirates in the semi-final. And, you know, they've scored so many goals. They always hammer Arsenal as well, especially at Anfield. I know this game's at the Emirates, but still. So if Arsenal can pick up a result against Liverpool this weekend, I think that'd be so huge, and what that would do for belief would be massive as well. So big game coming up. Going to be intriguing to see exactly how Arsenal, you know, approach it. Do they go all out like they do, you know, start so quickly like they have done in recent games, or do they maybe show Liverpool a bit more respect? Personally, I think they're going to go for it. I think before, when Arsenal, you think back to last time Arsenal beat Liverpool in the Premier League, it was that behind closed doors game at the Emirates, 2-1, Reece Nelson scored the winner, and it was just a back to the walls job. I think Liverpool probably had about 25 shots, Arsenal had about 4, they won 2-1, and it was just all out defence trying to keep Liverpool out. I don't think it'll be like that this time. I think Arteta has built the sort of side now where he can tell his team to go out and play the way he wants them to play, and the way we've seen him play against Tottenham, the way we saw him approach the game against Man United, even though it didn't work out in terms of the result. So I think they'll go for it against Liverpool, and it'll be really interesting to see what the result is. I can't wait. It's going to be a really interesting game to watch. In terms of team news for that game, it's not looking too bad, unless some things have gone on that we don't know about behind the scenes at training or anything like that, or anyone picked up anything during the game yesterday that no one really noticed. Then it's looking pretty good. Obviously no Smith Rowe, obviously no El Neni. Zinchenko's the one big doubt at the moment. He hasn't trained. He didn't train at the start of the week. Like I said, we saw him limp away from the game after the Tottenham match. He limped out of the stadium, wasn't walking good at all. And he hasn't trained, or didn't train, up to Wednesday. So he's the one big doubt really for Arsenal. We'll have to wait and see if he makes it. I mean, if he doesn't, it'll just be Kieran Tierney, who Mikel was pretty clever to bring off after about 60 or 65 minutes, whatever it was yesterday, because he would have known that Liverpool game's he would have had one eye on that Liverpool game, knowing that Zinchenko is a bit of an injury doubt. So other than that, it's looking pretty good, unless there's anything, like I said, that has gone on that we don't know about. Mikel is doing a bit of press later on today. It's not a normal press conference. I'm not going. There's just a couple of sort of the broadcast media who are going and having a little chat with him. And I think that the transcript of that will go on Arsenal.com and will go sort of get spread around the media. But it's not your usual press conference, just because we had the game last night and then he did a press conference afterwards. When that happens, Arsenal tend to not do a usual presser on the Friday at Colney. So there's not going to be one of those, but we will hear from Mikel Arteta. There will be some new quotes doing the rounds, and maybe he will give a little bit more of an indicator in terms of Zinchenko or any other team news on that. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time. As always, please do have a very good rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. Arsenal versus Liverpool on Sunday, coming up soon.